welcome to The Writer's Dream. Our show is a forum where authors can talk about how they write their books, how they publish their books, and how they market their books. We like to feature local authors because we like to give them a forum to talk about their favorite topic, which is their books. You can find us on YouTube. There are about 50 authors now on the YouTube channel, which is entitled The Writer's Dream. And we also have a Facebook page called The Writer's Dream. Please, if you have any questions, you can go on that Facebook page, ask the questions, and we'll try to answer them. Today's guest is Nanci LaGarenne, author of Cheap Fish and resident out here in East Hampton. So I'm sure you're going to have a lot of interested viewers, Nanci. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Linda.
Tell me about your book.
Well, my book is based in Montauk, and it's about a floating brothel started by commercial fishermen and various other characters, one a sports fisherman and one who's called a tree hugger. An unlikely trio, as I say in the book. And they form a little alliance, a little group, and they start a boat full of who they call mermaids, which would be the working women. And the idea for the book actually came from my brother-in-law, who is not a commercial fisherman, but dreams of going on a boat and catching an enormous fish, and does a lot more dreaming about it than actual fishing. And he told me a story that someone told him about this floating brothel that he heard about, and we realized that it was probably not actually something that existed, but when he told me the story, very animated as he can be, I thought this is a great idea for a book. Mm-hmm. At the time, I was starting to write a book about karaoke, which my husband and I were doing out in Montauk. We had a karaoke business for 12 years in a fisherman's bar, and bar right on the dock in Montauk, and some other places as well. But this particular bar is filled with fishermen and locals, and it's the fisherman's home away from home.
Fertile ground for characters, I'm sure.
Fertile, and I was paying attention, as I do, and I'm an observer. And when I heard about the floating brothel idea, I thought this is definitely where I'm going to go with this book. And I'll include the karaoke, but it will be about that. And then my next mission was, where's this fisherman that I can talk to about fishing, commercial fishing, mm-hmm. which I really knew nothing about, other than seeing the commercial fishermen come into the bar and knowing a few local ones, but nothing about the actual life that they have.
So do you really think that there was never a floating brothel?
Well, people believe that there is, and now they believe there is. This boat that I'm writing about is true and not fiction.
Oh, that's
They
funny.
want to know where the boat is.
Hook up with it. Yeah.
Where they can either be on the boat or work on the boat. Women have said, "Can I be a mermaid?" I'm like, "You can be whatever you want." You know. So as far as I know, there is no floating brothel, but you never know.
I think the history of Long Island, especially the East End, is so interesting that it's hard to imagine that there was not something like that existed at some time. Maybe
Yes.
not now, but certainly years ago when law enforcement out here wasn't quite as, I don't know what word to use, stringent as it probably
Yes.
is now. So what happens in the book?
Okay, so I did find my fisherman. He was somebody that I knew locally, and my husband and I both knew him, and he was the one who would tell me all about commercial fishing. And I told him about the idea because I wanted to make it clear I wasn't writing a men's lives, a life of the commercial fisherman, which is a great idea to do, but people have done that. Mm-hmm. This was a novel, and this was my idea, and he loved it. And he told me all about the fishing background. And then I went with the story and then created it. So the character in the book, so this commercial fisherman, this is him on the cover when he's 10. on the dock of the Montauk Marine Basin with
With the big fish.
with the giant tuna, yeah. And but the character Dragger is not him. But
Okay.
people like to believe they know who these characters are, and they have assigned certain people to these characters, and that's fine.
But that's a great thing for you because you can let them think whatever they want
Yes.
and not tell them, like, oh no, this is based on.
Right.
You never want to do that.
No, no, and I didn't want to do, his biography. I wanted to keep the character. I purposely made him older and about ready to retire. He had it is a hard life.
It
It's
is a hard
life of
Being
commercial fishing.
outside,
Yeah,
I owned a sailboat for 10 years with my husband, and we were both teachers, so we sailed every summer. We lived on the boat. We sailed around here, we spent some time moored in Lake Montauk, so I'm pretty familiar with the area, and I'm also familiar with, after 8 to 10 weeks living on a boat that has no electricity, no refrigeration, no shower, what it's like, and sailing all day, being out in the elements all day long, never being able to get away from, even at night, it's so damp in the boat. It is a hard life. It takes years out of your existence, I think.
yeah. And these guys go out, and they go out in the winter. They go out. It's not
Yes.
a choice of weather or whim or let's go fishing. We have to fish. We have to feed our families. And it's a time-honored tradition. It's passed down. The fathers fish, some of the moms fish. There's fisher women, which I love. Yeah, it's a dedication. I mean, it's a dedication, and it's almost not a choice. They go out. They just have to.
Sure.
And
Now, the mermaids.
yes.
Who did you base the mermaids on?
I don't know any working women, let's say, so I don't have that background. I think I've led a pretty sheltered life, but I have a great imagination. So, and I think everybody I think people are fascinated with, let's say, the dark side, or
Sure they
everyone's
are.
got a little shadow self or something, and imagining. I had a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, and she said, "Make me a mermaid." And she's the last person you would put on a working brothel, but she's so much fun. And I said, absolutely. So I changed her name, and I said, "You're on the boat. You're one of the mermaids."
Sure, yeah,
But,
well, it's that walk on
yeah.
the wild side.
Yeah, but I also, and I think this is a common theme I've written 3 books so far, but this is my first one to be published, and it's self-published. I have a common thread that runs through my books, and that's probably something about what I speak of and where I stand on things. I like strong women, and so the women usually fare well in the books, even if it looks like in the beginning they're not going to, or I don't write women victims. I like to empower women. And
What do you think really empowers women in a situation like this, which is physically challenging? What do you think empowers them and enables them to survive circumstances like that?
well, I think that in this case they have the madam. M is the madam on the boat, and she would be a little bit older than them, and she came from the bar. She was the former bartender for years and years, so she knows the fishermen, and there's going to be no nonsense that she's going to tolerate. So that women are going to be respected because it's going to be professional. There's no liquor on the boat. There's no anything that the women are not comfortable doing, they're not doing. They choose what they do. And so they're protected. And they've done it before, except there's one character who hasn't, and she wants to change professions. And that is one of the main characters as well, along with Dragger, her name is Chase. And she has a challenge in finding out if she's going to be a mermaid.
If she can make that
if she, yeah,
transition.
if she wants that transition. And I can't give away too much of the story
No,
because
no,
there's
no.
it's a mystery.
We know.
But but it's also in there is loyalty, which is important to me, and the bond of friendship between the two, particularly the two men on the boat, and also the loyalty of family and sisters, real tight sister thing.
Well, I would imagine, and I'm only imagining, that the mermaids and their madam are like a community. It's a communal thing.
Yes.
I often think of, especially when you're thinking about themes having to do with the sea, I often think of whales and how when a female whale gives birth, she has many female whales around her to catch the baby when it comes out, the baby whale, and it's that. And elephants do the same thing. They form that community to protect the female who is vulnerable, and I think sometimes I think that's genetically plugged into women, because women do that. We form a community with our friends, and that's our support, that's our strength.
We do, and when one of us needs the other, and I've experienced this, and hopefully I've been part of that circle, we circle the wagons. We take care of whoever needs us.
Yeah.
And if it's children, we really, it's the whole mama bear thing. We're there.
Well, that's
or grandchildren,
that's
whatever.
like the
We're
that's
always-
like the whales with the birth process, and the elephants too. Large mammals do that.
Yeah, we can definitely learn from nature.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you always notice that. I love nature, and I like to watch those nature shows, and I always notice that the females have the community, and the males are like peripheral. They impregnate the women, but they're always off somewhere.
Right.
And the women form the. I'm probably very sexist with this, but
Well, I
maybe
think
we
it's
should not go
true
there.
historically and culturally. It's the hunter-gatherer thing. Somebody's got to hunt, and somebody has to keep the fire going.
Yeah.
And keep the community and watch the kids.
And women are traditionally, from those long ago times, the keepers of the fire.
Yes.
They carried it in a little basket. It was the most amazing thing. Anyway, let's get back to your book. You said you had two others that you have not published. Do you plan on publishing them?
Yes, I have one that has just been professionally edited, and so I'm doing the corrections, the rewrite on that. And that's called Refuge, and that's about domestic violence. I worked in the retreat for years, and it's a subject that's very important to me to raise awareness, and to, unfortunately, it's not something that goes away. And it was a very heart-wrenching book to write, because personally I knew people who were victims of it, survivors. I don't like the word victim, but and my book is a survival story. So
That's good.
again, the women pick themselves up and move forward. And this part 2 of the book, it starts in Brooklyn Heights. I'm originally from Brooklyn. I was born and raised there, and
I can't tell you how many people I have on this show who originated in Brooklyn.
and we all find our way out to Montauk. It's and this part 2 of that particular book takes place in Ireland, which is another place that I've been and is near and dear to my heart. So it's
Oh, it's great that you're publishing that. Now, you said you self-published.
Yes.
Did you go with a company? Did you do it
Well,
yourself?
I have been sending my manuscripts out. I did have an agent back when I wrote my first book, which was, it's called Promised Land, and that it isn't out yet. And that was back in 99, 2000. I wrote it in 99. And to his credit, he sent it to all the big publishing houses, and I have the rejection letters. But it didn't, it's a little disappointing. It's disappointing, not a little.
It's very disappointing.
But it was my first attempt to write a book.
Right.
I'd been writing for years, sending in stories to Redbook, entering contests, writing, but never a book. So that was my first attempt to sit down and write a whole book. And so then when I wrote the second book about domestic violence, I sent him that book, and he kept it for a long time, and he was too busy, he admitted. So I wasn't able to.
This is such a timely topic.
Yeah.
But you know, since 1999, 2000, the world of publishing has changed.
Yes.
So drastically that your ability to get the books out there into a community of readers and writers is so different now. You really almost don't need an agent. My decision to self-publish was based on the fact that I just felt that I was too old to, number one, deal with the negativity. I'm a cancer survivor. I don't want to deal with any negativity, so I decided I'm going to do this on my own, and I didn't want to wait. I just didn't want to wait. But that's a timely topic, and since I've been doing this workshop on how to self-publish, I have been doing research into various websites. You should look into Wattpad, WATTPAD, because you can upload a manuscript and people come on and read it and then comment on it. So you have a community, and they're a Canadian-based company, and they have millions of readers. So you would get it out into a community of people who are, reading and also writing, and might be picked up. And I think I would have to look into this. This is something that I thought of after I did my preliminary research of how whatever you put up there is protected. Because when you write something, you
Yes, well, that's a fear I
copyright,
have.
ISBN number, sure.
We deal with that, and I've learned, because people are always asking me about, do you go to writing groups? And I don't, because I've took Julia Cameron's The Right to Write, which is a great book, and she did a workshop at Omega, and upstate, and I went for the weekend with my sister, and it was fantastic. She was there. It was a class for the whole weekend, so I got a lot out of that. And I did take just a Saturday workshop at the Ross School they had some years ago. But what was interesting to me, and what I found in these workshops, and I'm not putting them down by any means, if you need help to spur you maybe to write, or you don't know how to begin, I don't have that problem. But when I went to these workshops, I felt like people wanted to write. They had a dream to write. They had a desire to write. But they weren't writing.
Yes.
Because they had to go to the gym, and they had to do this, and
Yes.
about their kids. And I've always written, and I've had kids and a husband, and I know that it's not a job, and I know it's not easy. Now I can write full time.
Right.
But there was a time when I worked at the retreat, and I wrote that book, not while I was working there, but stories I wrote. I just find time. It's like reading. If people say I don't have time to read a book, I have to read a book, whether I have an infant or teenagers, or I can't go to sleep at night unless I read a chapter of a book. That's just, and I think a lot of writers have that. I know.
Yeah, I find the same thing when I do my workshops, is people are looking for the spur to get them moving. And that's why when I do the workshops, I give them how to do a Facebook page for your book. Even if you don't have a book, how to do a Facebook page that leads you into a writing community. I try to get them into a writing community, and there are a bunch of places that Wattpad is one.
Yes.
Kobo is another one. BiblioCrunch. There's they all have some weird names, but you get in. It's hard, I think, once you actually take something that you wrote and put it on a website to then just withdraw from it.
Well, and I think that might be the fear that people have as well. So they have this desire, they might have an idea, they have a story they want to tell, be it their own life story or a fantasy or whatever they want to write about. But to actually put it on the paper is quite frightening. And I think that as writers, I know myself, you have to be willing to
Put yourself
on the page. And it's not you, and it's not that you're the character. That's what I love about fiction. You can write about whatever you want, but a piece of you is in the book.
Sure.
And to me, it's like giving birth. You're writing, however long it takes. I mean, it doesn't take 9 months, but sometimes it might take 4 months. Sometimes it might take 2 years or 5 years. This book was started in 2007, and I self-published in 2010. So it took about a year and a half to write because there are rewrites. There are ways the story goes. I had no idea. I knew I wanted to write about this floating brothel. I knew there was going to be this main character and this other character. So I had that, and I began. And then the story took on a life of